survival tip number 1, tree bark and pine needles. This stemmed from a conversation that Crystal and I actually had about Greasy Say's winter specialty, which features, among other things, tree bark. And we were curious about whether or not you could actually eat the bark of a tree. So we found this incredible article, and I'll try to link to it later. But it's just full of fascinating information, and I felt like it was my duty to share this information with all of you, A, because it's really interesting, and B, because, I don't know, it might be useful to you someday if you're lost in the woods or, I don't know. So the first thing I wanted to mention before we get into the bark is about pine needles. You'll recall in the Hunger Games, I'm not sure if it's in Catching Fire or Mockingjay, or maybe the Hunger Games itself, but someone talks about, I don't even remember what the scene was, but they do talk about brewing pine needle tea, which sounds absolutely disgusting. But what I learned after reading this article is that pine needle tea is a preventative and a cure for scurvy caused by lack of vitamin C in the diet. So if you're, suffering from malnutrition, or if you're, really, really hungry and you want to get some more vitamin C, and you could brew pine needle tea. So that's survival tip number 1. But getting into the bark, so believe it or not, you can eat tree bark. And this article focuses on pine tree bark. And I guess the main things that you need to know if you ever want to actually eat pine tree bark are that it needs to come from a live tree. So either one that's still alive, although I think you might kill it if you do this, if you harvest it when the tree's still living, if the tree's still standing. Or, if a tree has recently been cut down, you could get it from that. But it needs to be from, like, a living tree, not, like, a rotting stump. And the bark that you want to eat is the inner bark that is closest to, the central part of the tree. And you can just kind of hack into it with a saw, I guess, or an axe and, peel the layers away. But what you want to do, and I guess this is the most important thing to keep in mind if you decide to eat tree bark, you don't want to eat it raw, because if you chew on it raw, you will just keep chewing and chewing and chewing until your jaw feels like it's going to fall off, and it'll just you won't be able to chew it. It'll just get all wadded up in a barky mass. So what you want to actually do is cook the tree bark. And this guy who wrote this article, he actually recommends frying it in a pan with some oil. And then you'll get these crispy little bark chips, kind of like potato chips or bacon or something. And you can just eat them. And it's actually apparently a pretty great snack if you're desperate, and there is nutritional value to it. One thing I thought was especially interesting is that a lot of Native American tribes used to eat tree bark. He specifically talks about the Adirondack tribe, and I never knew this, but the word Adirondack actually means bark eaters. And they, I guess, I don't know if they named themselves that or what, but it's because that particular tribe used to eat bark a lot. But yeah, so you could actually eat tree bark. Just remember, inner bark from the inner part of the tree, and cook it, fry it in a pan. And maybe Crystal and I will actually cook some of it and taste it.
On Fictional Food? Is Crystal going to make this for fictionalfood.net at some point? Maybe?
I don't know where to find a live tree that I can kill just for a couple bites of bark.
Yeah, the problem would be getting an axe or a crowbar and hacking into a living tree and just peeling away the layers of bark. That would just be terrible, because the tree would then die.
I shouldn't be handling an axe. Yeah. I sliced open my finger with a butter knife, and I shouldn't be handling an axe.
I have seen them sell chocolate bark, though.
Sure.
I was going to say, it's not real bark, but chocolate bark is delicious. Just throwing that out there. Especially
Theresa, were you just saying something? Who was that?
I was going to say, if anybody wants more survival tips, you have to check out Jedi Skywalker or Shiloh's Twitter feed or check out the HG Fireside Chat hashtag because she's got some good ones in there. I've been finding it very hard not to laugh during this whole conversation. So, anyway. So, yeah.
I'm really curious, though. Like, I kind of want to brew some pine needle tea just to see what it tastes like. And I'm dying to know what cooked tree bark tastes like. Because this guy says it's not that bad. In fact, he says...
you have to remember he's a survivalist, so he probably doesn't have very refined taste buds.
He says, I can easily eat a bag full of these crunchy bark chips as a snack, and certainly they would be a welcome addition to any wilderness survival meal.
The cool part was that at the end of the article, he talks about eating dandelion salad, too.
Yes, and you made that, right? Or you're growing the dandelions?
No, I haven't made that. I let them die on my kitchen counter, so I have to plant them again.
Isn't that like eating pita if you eat dandelions? I mean, he is sort of the dandelion. I would
That's
feel
true.
a little bit wrong. Just saying.
You'd be eating a beautiful metaphor.